Good afternoon, I'm Simi Sarah. Well, as if there haven't been enough controversial projects out there for us to talk about, looks like maybe another one is coming our way. The Kokish River on Vancouver Island is often referred to as a spectacular example of what BC has to offer. But is a new hydroelectric project something to be concerned about? We're going to get two perspectives on this. We'll be talking with Gwen Barlee in just a moment, and then in a few minutes we'll also check in with Gerry Furney, the mayor of Port McNeil, which is near this particular project, and find out what the mayor thinks of this project. But we'll start right now with Gwen Barlee with the Wilderness Committee. Thanks for being with us, Gwen.
My pleasure, Simi.
So what are your concerns about this?
Well, the concerns are that the Kokish River is a very valuable fish river. It has 5 species of wild salmon, 2 endangered runs of steelhead, cutthroat trout, and eulachon. And the Department of Fisheries and Oceans says it's a high-value and sensitive fish river. And that's why we're so surprised and appalled that DFO has signed off on a private power project for that river, especially because the Department of Fisheries and Oceans is aware that there's considerable non-compliance on other operating IPPs. So we know there have been major problems that have resulted in fish kills at other power plants, and yet here they are playing Russian roulette with a very fish-rich river.
Okay, has this been a long time coming? How long has this project been?
It's probably been, 3 to 4 years in the pipe, excuse the pun. But there's been a lot of public concern. Because, again, private power projects, run-of-river projects, weren't supposed to be located in fish habitat, let alone prime fish habitat. And so you have groups as diverse as the BC Wildlife Federation, the Steelhead Society, the Wilderness Committee, the BC Federation of Fly Fishers, Willie Mitchell, who are saying this is the last place that you should be situating a private power project.
Right, but Gwen, this hasn't actually been approved yet.
Well, it looks like it's a done deal, unfortunately, and I'd love to be proven wrong, that we knew that DFO, the province had already signed off on the project last year in December, and we knew the only thing standing between the project being built was permission from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. And a couple days ago, I was looking online, Googling online actually for the Kokish, and I came across an ad by Kiewit. And Kiewit is a construction company, and they do a lot of construction for private power operators. And they were hiring in that region, the Port Hardy area, and they said, send your resume to kokish@kiewit.com. And so that made me think that obviously that Kiewit, the construction company, had been told that the project had been approved. And then yesterday it was confirmed, although DFO hasn't posted their decision online, but it was confirmed that indeed DFO had signed off on the project, and we'll probably be getting official confirmation of that in a day or so.
Now, isn't this the DFO, confirmation is another issue entirely, because this kind of goes to what they're talking about, these changes that we keep anticipating coming to the Fisheries Act. And do you think somehow this is linked to that?
I don't know, but I think it's a sign of what we can expect in the future. That it kind of makes you wonder who's in charge here. That DFO BC had said this is a very high value and sensitive fish river, and yet they turn around, and I think it was a political decision probably coming out of Ottawa, they turn around and allow a private power project on that river. And we know that environmental regulations, when it comes to protection of fish, when it comes to protection of the environment, when it comes to protection of our rivers, is actually being weakened right now as we speak. So if we couldn't even protect the Kokish River with the existing environmental protection, how can we protect other rivers like it in the future when those environmental protections have been weakened?
Wasn't the Kokish just on a list?
No,
recently?
Oh, yes, it actually was on a list. The Outdoor Recreation Council, every year they come out with a list of the 10 most endangered rivers in British Columbia. And the Kokish River was number 1, tied with Sacred Headwaters for one of the most endangered rivers in all of British Columbia.
And this was, I remember this because I think I did this interview. It was the Outdoor Research Council, and we're talking, that means fishermen, anglers,
hunters,
it's everything.
Outdoor recreationists, that people who have their boots on the ground and really value wild rivers, and especially value rivers that have very, very rich and high fish values. And obviously, again, the Kokish has 5 species of wild salmon, 2 endangered runs of steelhead, and cutthroat trout and eulachon. This should be the last river that you're placing a private power project on, especially because DFO knows the risk to salmon and the risk to wild fish with these projects.
All right. Well, Gwen, thanks for your time today.
My pleasure.
That is Gwen Barlee from the Wilderness Committee talking about the Kokish River. A couple of things here. One, we're going to continue this discussion with the mayor of Port McNeil and find out how the community feels about this idea. This is probably a jobs generator. And is this going to mean a difference in that community? We'll get that perspective. And as well, just to recap here, I can't tell you how many times that we have tried to talk to Federal Fisheries Minister Keith Ashfield. We've had so many questions in the last 6 weeks or so in regards to run-of-river projects. You know, the reports that came out, the documentation, freedom of information requests about non-compliance. We have never been able to get him on the show. We will continue to try and do so, especially in light of this. But once again, it would be nice to get a government perspective on this and find out. Just give us the idea. Why say yes? There must be a justification for that. I'd love to hear that side of it. So we will continue to make those requests. But when we come back, we'll be talking with the mayor of Port McNeil.
You're listening to CKNW News Talk 980, BC's news leader.
Welcome back. We are talking about the Kokish River on Vancouver Island. There is word that a run-of-river project is about to be approved for that area. Many people have concerns about that, as we just heard from the Wilderness Committee. They have concerns as well. The Outdoor Research Council has concerns of Kokish being a major fish river, especially in that particular area there. But is this going to be a jobs generator? Is this something that the community wants to do? Well, Gerry Furney joins us now, the mayor of Port McNeil, and thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you for calling.
So is this a good idea for the community?
I think it's an excellent idea for the community and for all of northern Vancouver Island, which does not have another source of locally generated power in it.
What kind of a difference do you think this is going to make?
Number one, it produces electricity for the people of the North Island, and the Namgas Band, which is the band that lives mostly in the Alert Bay area of northern Vancouver Island, are a very worthwhile band, very interested in economic development for themselves and their people. And as much as possible, our municipalities have gotten along very, very well with the Namgas over the years, and we totally support their efforts in this particular event, or in this particular effort, I guess you'd call it.
Well, are there any environmental concerns, though? I mean, there have been, concerns raised about the Kokish, that this is an endangered river, this is a major fish-bearing river. Are you worried at all about that?
There doesn't appear to be any concern on the part of the local people. The Kokish area has been logged, as you may or may not be well aware, for many, many years, and sustainably by different companies, and it hasn't had any negative effect on the river. The plan apparently is at this time to ensure that there's adequate water for any salmon arriving back in the river at breeding time, and that's obviously something that's near and dear to the heart of the Namgas people, who are very much dependent on the salmon industry and the salmon fishing available there.
Have you had indications that this project is a go-ahead, that this is going to happen?
My understanding is that it's already underway, and I'm sure it will be done very carefully and done very well by an internationally respected construction company, Peter Kiewit Construction. As far as I'm aware, that's the company that will be doing the work, and they've already got people on the ground getting the initial steps taken.
Wait a minute, so your understanding is it's already underway, even though technically it hasn't been officially announced or approved yet?
Let's put it this way, the preparations are being made in a very definite way, and we don't expect to see any barriers to the completion of the project.
Is there an economic benefit to your community? I mean, are there going to be jobs available for local people there?
There will be some jobs, but this is really not about jobs. It's about utilizing a renewable resource which is represented by the Kokish River, and it will be managed in a careful way, sustainably, and I'm sure that in the long run it'll be a real benefit to the people of the Namgas Nation.
Will you be watching it? Will the community be watching it closely to make sure that those protections are still there, that the river isn't damaged by this?
Well, in any way that we can reasonably do so. I'm sure the people of Port McNeil, many of whom fish in the area and fish in the ocean nearby, will be keeping a general eye on it. But I rely totally on the people of the Namgas itself, who are very, very conscious of their relationship with their neighbours and also with the environment. This is a band that highly respects the environment.
So this power, as you said, it's locally generated, but is it going to stay local, or is it just going to be sold to BC Hydro? I mean, do you know that this power is going to stay in the community?
I believe it will be fed into the BC Hydro loop, but in effect, if there's a problem with the transmission line which comes up to the North Island through Gold River, which is through some fairly hazardous territory, if there's a break in that transmission line, we would then to some extent be power independent in the North Island with our own generating station at the Kokish River.
So what do you think when you hear about people raising concerns about this, saying that the Kokish River is not somewhere where we should be putting a run-of-river project?
Well, there's automatically, for any project that comes along, there's always a group of people who will not want it. They will not understand all the realities of the situation, and they won't take the time to find out about it. They jump into a negative position. That's unfortunate. They shouldn't do that. There is a definite benefit to the people of the North Island, and in particular to the Namgas Indian band, and that band and their wishes should be respected, and I'm sure that the non-native population of the North Island will be very, very supportive when they realize that we now have our own power station.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome. I'm delighted that you're giving some publicity to this effort, and I hope it works well for everybody.
All right. That is Gerry Furney, the mayor of Port McNeil. You heard him say it right there. As far as he knows, this project is going ahead. This is a run-of-river project on the Kokish River, named by the Outdoor Research Council as one of the most endangered rivers in the province, but the community feels this is something that they want to have happen, and they feel like it's going to be done well. And I guess at this point, even though it hasn't been fully approved yet, they feel it's on its way. The construction is already getting started. You kind of wonder, how did that happen? We'll be asking the federal fisheries minister for an explanation on that. We'll talk more when we come back.